Hello and welcome to Wine with Weeda, the podcast that is dedicated to engaging with health professionals and caregivers in meaningful discussions. I'm your host, Rita Shamoon, or as my clients call me, Weeda. I'm a pediatric speech pathologist and I am so excited to have you here. Each week, we deep dive into connecting you with caregivers and healthcare professionals, sharing their insights, stories, and key takeaways to help you with your child's diagnosis and your journey. Whether you are a parent, healthcare professional, a lifetime learner, or simply a wine enthusiast, you're in the right place. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone. Today's episode is really special and sits at the heart of what I care deeply about. What a full and meaningful life can look like for individuals with disabilities. I'm joined by two incredible women, Karen Burdett, CEO of Greenacres Disability Services, an organisation creating real opportunities through employment, training and community, and Carol Ramsey, who brings a powerful lived experience as a mum navigating this journey alongside her daughter, Maddie. Greenacres offers diverse pathways for people with disability, from work in nursing homes, packaging and cafes, to social enterprises like Imagine, Homewares and Hampers, which provide meaningful roles and skill-building opportunities for a variety of abilities. Maddie herself works in a nursing home in packaging NAD products, real examples of Greenacres giving people not just a job, but full independent lives. This conversation goes beyond service and support. It's about identity, independence, and what it truly means to create a life, not just a job. Welcome to Wine with Weeda, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I'm really looking forward to this discussion tonight because we're tapping into a mother's lived experience, but also an organisation that meets the emotional needs and concerns that many families go through when they have a child with a disability. Carol, I'd love to start with you. Your journey into motherhood really wasn't straightforward. How did that shape you the way you approach raising your daughter, Maddie?
It is an interesting start to being a parent because growing up, that's all I wanted to be. I just wanted to be a mum, and my husband and I agreed that I could be an at-home mum full time, which is, a big sacrifice. It meant making decisions about, how to minimize costs and stuff so that I could do that. And it just didn't happen the way I planned it. Had a very clear plan in my head. My body did not get that clear plan. So actually had 5 miscarriages and an ectopic pregnancy in the process of trying to carry a baby to term. And we did have a son. And after that, the doctors basically said, look, we just think you need to kind of cool it with trying to have a baby, a natural baby, another one. And so I decided I wanted to adopt a child with disability, and that process is very different to adoption in alternative spaces, where you kind of put your name down and you wait. In adoption with the disability, you have to apply for a specific child, and you have to be realistic about what you're agreeing to. So there's a lot of forethought with sort of like determining what you think you're capable of managing. And so because we were renting, it couldn't be somebody who needed us to modify our home in any way. We already had a little boy, so we thought a little girl would be awesome. And we saw Madeline's profile and her picture, and we're like, this is who we want this girl into our family. She was only very little at the time, a couple of months old, and as it turns out, we were successful in adopting her when she was 7 months old. And so that, for me, that just meant that we got to have a family. And just to close the story off, about 4 years later, I fell pregnant and carried that child to term. And so we have a boy on either end. Mads in the middle. And I was sort of thinking about, I don't really know that it changed how I approached Madeline, but I think I just believed that I wanted to be the sort of mum that would empower my child, who completely kind of wanted them to reach their fullest potential. So my experience, I guess, of of that raising a child is a long-term pursuit. I think like having to come to terms with the fact that you couldn't have another baby of your own at that stage. I just had to come to terms with the idea that parenting is a lifetime job. Pregnancy is 9 months of that lifetime job. So the pregnancy part's not the important part. It's the commitment to the lifelong pursuit of being a parent for that child. And so for me, it was just accepting that she was our part of our family. And also I think just that I just wanted to have the same expectations over her as I did with my other two boys. All my children are special. People would say, oh, she's so special. And I go, all my kids are special. All my kids are special. And also just I wanted her to be to reach whatever her potential was, whatever that looked like, the same as what I wanted from my boys. I wanted her to be the easiest person in the room because I didn't want people to have to hesitate if she wanted to come visit a friend or if a friend said, oh, could she sleep over? And her mums are like, oh, no, like I just wanted her to be really an easy person to have around because sometimes people overcompensate with their children with a disability and kind of
they do.
Allow them to have lots of no rules like they would their own other children, and then they kind of actually become quite difficult for people to want to be around because they're high needs, they're interrupting all the time, they don't want to hear no or whatever. And so we kind of managed to meet some of those people and we thought, let's just not do that. Let's just try to help her be the person that everyone goes, oh, of course, Madeline can come anytime. And so I think that was just, we had more opportunity to think through what we wanted before the child, like, because we had to put a lot of thought into what our family was going to look like.
For context, what disability does Maddie have?
Down syndrome.
Oh, Down syndrome. How fitting. We just had Down syndrome week last week.
I know.
Yeah. And how old is she now?
She's 32.
Yeah.
32.
Wow,
I should know because she
flies.
tells me all the time.
I'm 32, Mum. But I really appreciate how you said you didn't want to do things differently because of her diagnosis, where it's a free ticket if she does something incorrectly or misbehaves, because a lot of parents feel because of their communication challenges or behavioral difficulties, it's an easy ticket to not to intervene at that moment. But I love how you've said that because so many parents can relate to that.
Yeah, it's a really, I think it was one of the things that I noticed a lot was I think it's very different when you adopt a child. You're already choosing something. If it's a biological child, you don't have that luxury. You don't have you have to actually catch up, and I think would be very hard. So we had lots of time, thought, intention about having a child with a disability. People don't have that luxury, and so I think that's I really feel for that. But I think that it also means that they tend to come at it where they feel guilty and they feel responsible in some way, and there's always in the back of their mind where they think, well, maybe if I had done something different, maybe it wouldn't have turned out this way, or the guilt that comes from feeling disappointed, but you feel guilty that you're disappointed. I didn't have that stuff. So I didn't have any of that stuff to have to work through. So it just comes from a different space then.
Yeah, of course, different space. That's right. You made a conscious decision to focus on what Maddie could do. How did that influence her confidence and independence to now as she's a thriving adult?
The only thing I think of is I think most people with Down syndrome already exude a lot of confidence.
Yes.
Comes with the chromosome, I think. But I can tell you in terms of her, people would say what that would look like is people would say to me, oh, can she walk yet? Can she talk yet? Can she read yet? And I'd say, let me tell you what she can do. I'm not going to focus on what she can't do. It doesn't mean I'm not going to push for what she can't do, but it's going to work out what she can do. And I'm going to talk into that space with people all the time. I wasn't interested in trying to focus on those things that she wasn't good at. And I wanted to make sure that I was always building her up. Like any kid wants to hear that, right? Like that they're being built up by their parents. And so we tried really hard to focus on what she was good at and then also what our communication with other people is what she can do. And I think that inevitably does turn out that you a bit more confident in yourself. Anybody would be, right? Probably a good example is that a few years ago, I go to CrossFit and my CrossFit gym wanted to have they wanted to get into the NDIS space, and they said, look, if we give you a free membership for a month, could you bring Madeline, and can she have a go? I'm thinking, she's going to hate this. Like outside of dancing, she doesn't want to do anything that's like uncomfortable.
CrossFit's intense.
It is intense, and it's almost like
intense for me.
intuitive for a person who are pain adverse, which are Down syndrome are often quite pain adverse, right?
Yes.
Anything that's going to be painful, I'm just going to stay away from that. And so I said, yeah, we'll try it for a month. Well, she actually loved the space, but more importantly, I was surprised by how, like, what she was learning very fast what to do and trying new things, which is very unusual. And so then the reason why that worked for us so well is because I have a mantra about CrossFit. It's like, at CrossFit, we do hard things. And so if she says something, I go, ha, 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 we are CrossFitters, we do hard things. And because every workout is hard, it's validated all the time that you're doing hard things. So she had to have a operation on both her eyes. It's very, very intense. It's very invasive. And I thought, this is going to be so bad because she hates like everything to do with the hospital. She hates having blood tests. You've got to wrestle her to try to get the blood out. This is not going to be any good. But we had been going to CrossFit for a while. So we had to go get some blood tests, and I kept saying to her, now, you know that us CrossFitters, we do hard things. And I took lots of videos of her doing CrossFit. So we're getting to see the guy and to get the blood test. And I'm saying, did you know Madeline's a CrossFitter? I'll show you some of her incredible videos. Like, she can do really hard things. And then I'm showing the guy that, and then Madeline's like, oh yeah, I do hard things. She's still like going, I still don't want to have a blood test, right? But I saw a huge confidence and her independent shift when she was like, okay, you can do the blood test. And he was hopeless and stabbed her like 36 times to get the blood out. And I was horrified because I'm like thinking, you're killing me here, mate. Like,
you've tried your best with the videos and everything, and he's just doing it wrong.
And she did just suck it up. And then when we went in to have the operation, we said to the lady, do you know Madeline does CrossFit? We do hard things. And she goes, I tried it, but I hated it. She goes, it was too hard. So then she told everybody else. So it was just this thing that I saw, that her own ability to control herself, to be able to say, yes, I'm scared, but I can have a go. It's a phenomenal change in her. That built her confidence and her independence. And she goes 3 times a week. She's really good at doing lots of stuff at the CrossFit. But more importantly, I just saw how it impacted her everyday life, because she learned, I actually can do hard things. And it's just as simple as saying that to her over and over again. You do hard things, because we do CrossFit. We CrossFitters do hard things. But yeah, really interesting to see that they could get pushed much further than you think.
I love that. This echoes a lot of messages here, that you don't define an individual by their disability, but really more their ability. Yeah. And in this case, Maddie's ability to do CrossFit, which many individuals can't do, myself included. But I really love how you used her interest in the sport and the drive that she had within those moments and intertwined them into other areas of her life. Now, that mantra, we do hard things, CrossFitters do hard things, can be implemented to any aspect of her life, because it will return back to the butterfly feels that she gets in that moment. And not a child, not any individual, not an individual with that's that has a different disability, but any individual, if we just instill that belief that they can, anything is possible. Yeah. And what you said earlier, can my child talk yet? Can they do this yet? No, my child can actually do A, B, C, D. I love that. I really, really love that. You said that Maddie could have a job but not a life. How did joining Greenacres and taking part in their programs help you give her that full life?
Yeah, it's so important. I think that parents of children who have a disability often want them to get a mainstream job in a mainstream environment, whereas so it's almost like they can pretend like the kid doesn't have a disability. I'm just thinking they think that's the better place for them, and it might be. Madeline could have worked for Kmart when she finished school. She went to a special needs school, and they did a lot of job transitioning with her, and she was at the local Shell Harbour Kmart kind of thing. But she
Go
was
Illawarra.
go the Illawarra. And look, she was good at it. She likes folding clothes and tidying up and stuff. And all the people liked her there. But we just said, look, you'll have a job here, but you're not really going to have a life because people aren't going to invite you. The girls aren't going to invite you down the club. And I probably don't want you to go down the club with the girls, right? Or they're not going to invite you to birthday parties necessarily or for after work hangs. She would be a work colleague in those spaces. And so when we decided I wanted to make friends. I wanted to have a full life. I want her to feel proud of what she's doing. And so we decided to look at going to Greenacres. And the interesting thing was it was pre the way NDIS works now. So all the funding goes to the place. So we had to get her to work every day. But because we work, she had to catch a train every day. Right?
How was that?
Well, it was nerve-wracking. But
my daughter started high school and just started catching a bus, and my ability to track her move gives me so much peace because I know where she is. But as a grown adult, how do you not necessarily let that go, but how do you come to terms with I need to work on myself to support my child too?
Well, when she first started catching the public bus, I would wait till she would have to walk to the bus stop, and then I would hide in the bushes and try to watch her, make sure she got on the right bus. One time she went to get on the wrong bus, and I just jumped out of a bush somewhere, going, "Stop! No, that's the wrong bus." And everyone's like,
"Because I see myself in you, Carol."
But it was that was a bit more challenging because the buses had different schedules, I guess. So when it changed to the trainer was easier because we could drop her off at the train station and she knew which one to get off. We limited the amount of things that she had in terms of she had a PayWave card but almost no money on it. So if it got stolen, it didn't matter. She had a cheaper phone but one that we could still track, Find My Phone person on it. And we just would make her ring us when she get to the other end. And, it just takes time, but, she became quite independent to catch that. And I'm glad now that she went. That was her first introduction to Greenacres, was because it meant she had to go on the bus. I wanted her to go to a place that was much closer to me because it was near where I worked, but she wanted to go to Greenacres because some of her friends from school went there. And so we were like, no, it's her choice. If she wants to, well, then you're going to have to catch the train. And so, and look, some of her friends, one of her friends, he had his bike stolen on the train one time by somebody else, and another one had a phone stolen, and it happens, and so we just have to deal with it if it happens. We can't allow fear to be a barrier for her to have normal life experiences. But she chose Greenacres because it had people that she knew there. It had a varied job options. She loves now that she goes to the nursing home. She is so proud of that. If people say, "What do you do for work?" She goes, "I work in a nursing home." And she doesn't tell them she goes and plays bingo, but she loves what she does. She loves that environment. She loves the older people there, and the community there really love her. For her birthday, they throw her a birthday party with a cake and everything and give her a present. So she's very valued in that environment as well. And then she works in the factory. Again, she likes that. She has been the checker a number of times where she's got to check the boxes and weigh them and tell people they're not doing the right job and she's very bossy, so she likes that job. But she takes pride in it because she can see it on the shelf, right? Yeah. And so she has a whole life there because it's not just a job that she goes to and leaves. They have kickstarts on the weekend. She goes out to the club with her friends and they find where the music's playing and when there's live music so they can all do karaoke and dancing. She does it every second Friday night. There's things on the weekend. She loves 10-pin bowling. They go 10-pin bowling. But she gets invited to people's birthdays. We had invited those people to her birthdays. This is this whole life that she does have. And because she was working in those spaces, there became available an opportunity for her to volunteer at the Lions Club bookshop in Oak Flats. And every second Monday she goes and she works there. And she loves it. And I think she can do that because she's working in the nursing home with some other people that are a bit older and because, the volunteers there are kind of retired and stuff. And then they love it. So she just has a full, between CrossFit and Greenacres and the Lions Club bookshop, that she has a great full life. Yeah. And that's all we wanted for her, to have a well-rounded life, a job that was varied, friends, a social life, meaningful work. I didn't want her to be babysat. I didn't want her to go to a place where they just babysat you. And yeah.
All I'm gathering from this discussion is that Greenacres also offer that community. And through my discussions on Wine with Weta, the number one element that families need going through their child's diagnosis and intervention is community. Community gives you that sense of belonging. Community makes you feel safe, makes you feel seen, heard, and protected. But with Greenacres, in Maddie's case, yes, it's an employment financial benefit, but it instills the beliefs that she can carry through in any element of her life. Socially, she's got that part met, emotional connections, and most importantly, her mental health. I've had interviews with many families where one dad in particular, he joined the Penrith Panthers and made his son the mascot for the Penrith Panthers. He would run out, and if he didn't start that as part of his employment, his mental health would have deteriorated significantly. And I think the message through this discussion is, yes, a person has a disability, but if we empower them to believe that they can do anything, and through organisations like Greenacre, the outcome or the positive outcomes are unmeasurable for these individuals.
So true. Yeah.
For any parent listening, especially the ones with young children, and they're incredibly worried about what their child's future would look like, and what you said, they want them to go to mainstream employment or mainstream schooling. What would you tell them to support them on the future of their child's journey?
I was thinking about this afternoon. I thought, look, I can't stress enough how important it is to have high expectations. Like, I think the worst thing, I think the worst thing is that we lower our expectations and then they meet them. We need to stretch them. We need to actually say, like, my daughter really does not like to walk up in a smorgasbord where there's a line of people. She kind of like doesn't want to go get her food. I go, well, you're going to be hungry tonight because I'm not going to do
Carol,
that.
I love this.
And she just sits there, and I'm like, eventually, and if someone came and said, I'll do it for her, I said, no, she can definitely go. She's hungry. She's going to go get food. I can tell you that's a fact. And so I think it's really, really important to have reasonable expectations, all right? And don't give them an out and make them do uncomfortable things, because they will match whatever standard you set for them. Madeline thinks that having Down syndrome is a superpower, which I think it is. And I know that she knows she's special and she's proud of who she is. But this only happens when you don't make excuses for them, and you actually see it's an empowering thing for them. So that's what I would say.
Carol, as a speech pathologist and as a mother, I applaud you for saying this, because it's about knowing your child does not have limitations. You create those limitations. Yes, there are some instances where there are physical challenges and communication challenges. However, there's never a no as an answer. There's always, what other things can we do to help them communicate effectively or move better? And if we put in our minds as parents, your child can't, well, then they can't. But if we show that they can, mate, they're going to show you and teach you as an individual that your belief for your child is actually different to what you've been believing your whole time.
Totally.
Love it. Thank you. Now, Karen, hearing Maddie's journey, why is it still so rare for people with disabilities to access meaningful employment opportunities?
Look, I think there's so many different layers to this and lots of sort of compounding barriers that can sometimes be at play. And I think when you look at some of the statistics for people with disability in terms of the unemployment rate, it is double that. It's 10%, so more than double the rate for people without a disability. And then when you look at intellectual disability and we look at the figure around that, it's about 20% from an unemployment. So those sort of figures really do tell a bit of a concerning story. But I think, when we're looking at the why and you're looking at, one of the key areas that you were describing, Carol, around mainstream employment, and then I look at the services for, say, Greenacres in that supported employment environment, and we look at how Greenacres came about, is that effectively supported employment providers are essentially a downstream response to the fact that for so many years, mainstream employment historically just actively never considered hiring a person with a disability. And there's lots of reasons for that. I think part of the challenge is that a lot of organisations are just not really sure where to begin. And there might be a little bit of sort of, concern around how best to support, not wanting to do the wrong thing. And, that they do present barriers, I guess, for employers. And so I think that's been part of it. But I think, as Carol was describing too, in terms of, the experience about going to Kmart and working there, is that even when a person does get the job, making that environment truly inclusive hasn't always been the experience. And being invited to things, and being connected in terms of the lunchtime chats, and all of those flow-on things that we get from a job that are really, really critical sometimes don't eventuate just because you got the work. And I think that that just really speaks to the fact that being present in the workplace, but then genuinely belonging in it, is two different things. And I think the other aspect for me is there's often quite a bit of stigma, and that's quite a deeper issue. So, I think for a long time, and you said it, I was listening to so many things that you were saying, Carol, and I align with so much of it, is that for too long, people lead with the disability rather than the person, and what that person is actually capable of. And sometimes what that does is not just shape the hiring decision for that person, but what's worse is it actually then shapes the expectation that individual places on themselves. And I think that this then speaks to exactly what you were talking about, Carol, in terms of, if you're a person that doesn't have the same rights and opportunities and given those chances, and you don't have that expectation on you that you can and you will succeed, then often what happens is there is the potential that person goes sort of to be undeveloped, essentially. And that ambition that they might have, it goes unsupported. And so that those things, all aligning together, they create, I guess, a bit of a microcosm of their environment that makes it hard. But I do think things are changing, and albeit slowly. I mean, there's lots of things that we would like, to be changing a lot faster than it is. But I think people are being recognising for the unique abilities that they have, and I think organisations and society specifically, we're coming into a place where we know that inclusion actually makes really good sense. And I think that's exactly the space that Greenacres plays in, and specifically with things like, the creation of our imagined social enterprises and things. That's a core part of what we do.
Beautiful. I love that. How intentional are Greenacre programs, including initiatives like Imagine, in creating these outcomes for people with all abilities?
Look, I think they're really specific around making sure that they create environments that are inclusive in their practice. So it's about it not just being on paper, but in actual what we do day to day. Obviously, if you have a person that's placed in a specific type of employment where they're set up in that employment, but they're not set up to actually succeed and be supportive, then it can have massively damaging and lasting impacts to that person's confidence. So for us specifically, that what we try to do is we try to approach a discovery around the person's interests and what sort of unique abilities they have. And then we look at sort of what type of work or activity will best fit for someone to be able to thrive. And I guess what it is essentially about creating that inclusive environment, always asking, well, how can we do it and how can we make it work, as opposed to, oh, it won't work because. And that is what's unique about that supported employment environment. And I think what we also do is we really try to think outside of the square and how we can adapt certain processes, or it might be a certain tool that we use in the workplace, or a current activity that we're doing with an individual. And sometimes it's just about helping that person, you know, trial different things or activities, and it might be multiple tasks, and then you find a specific task that they're really in flow with work. And so I think for us, not just in Imagine, but across all of our enterprise and all the work, including where Maddie works, is really about we're very open to coaching and adjusting, and then advocating for the person to, you know, be involved, and then recognizing that unique value that they're offering at that specific time within their particular capabilities. And so that's sort of the method that we take in that regard.
How do families get involved or contact Greenacres? Is there like a school leavers program or an integration with high schools or even special schools to help families discuss the next step after year 10 and year 12?
Yeah, so there's actually quite a lot of pathways. So we do have a specific pathway which is a work launch pathway, and that is what was traditionally known as the old SLES, like the school leaver supports or transition to work. And that's where we have a dedicated, and it's an individualised support program where a lot of it is done in a group, but there is also one-on-one sessions, and it's effectively a pathway of specific programs that are really about embedding in some of those foundational skills that you need, not just in work, but you need in life. And that, you know, as you were saying, Carol, you know, that travel perspective for Maddie, when she got her job, it's like, okay, well, now you got to get to work. So what are those things? So it's the travel training, and it's, you know, it might be around even just personal hygiene. It could be around conflict, those sorts of things. So families can contact Greenacres and explore that. But I think a lot of families also are introduced to us via connections and you know, in the community,
word of
talking
mouth
to each other. Yeah, like we were sort of saying before, that's huge. And sharing what's worked. And it could even be things like a community connect program, which is volunteering. It could be just going, look, you know, coming in and have a tour around a site where there is employment across the different aspects of, you know, what we offer. And so there's lots of different pathways in, but the main thing is that sort of discovery process with the family and the actual participant, potential employee themselves, to go, you know, what do I want to achieve here? Where am I at? And I guess that's the good thing about you know, organisations like us. We've been around for 72 years. We have been doing this a long time, and you know, we know the number one thing is that it's not one size fits all. So it's around personalised and tailored approach. And I guess that's the really critical thing too, is that a family member wants to know that that person is being seen as an individual, and that the organisation or the environment or the provider that they're working with can adapt around their needs.
Yeah. Just my own personal question. Could you offer support for small businesses looking to employ individuals who have additional needs to include inclusivity? I can't even say, it's a big word. Inclusivity. It's a bit hard to clever out those, just so they can branch out to support other ranges of employment.
So there's a lot that's actually going on in the space, and there's a lot of work with the Centre for Inclusive Employment and there's a whole new sort of dynamic. What was traditionally called DES, so Disability Employment Support, has been sort of revolutionised by the government recently over the last 12 months, which is Inclusive Employment Australia, which is a new pathway where organisations can be open and willing to hire someone, and it's great for small businesses to be able to go, okay, well, what sort of assistance might I need to basically adapt the workplace to accommodate for somebody's specific needs. But Greenacres specifically, what we do, and we have, even for our employees that are working in our supported employment actually acts often like a bit of a skills incubator, if you will. So if somebody comes in, they're working in a range of different environments, but they've got the longer term goal to go work in a small business or in a cafe or something to that effect. And so they're building their skills in that environment, but with the view, eventually that's my goal. And so Greenacres can support with on-the-job supports where they go in and work with the person one-on-one as part of their employment supports in their plan. So the organisation isn't necessarily having to spend all that time doing that, particularly at the start where you're wanting to explore, what the individual's, talents are and their abilities and, how things work. So it's definitely a part. And I think that's one of the things that we've been, really trying to push is for businesses to know that there's lots of ways you can get involved, or you can sort of try and change that sort of view about what you might be doing in your business to be more inclusive, and, offering work experience opportunities, or even just considering that, because organisations like Greenacres and the IEA providers can help, that organisation adjust.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Any family wanting to reach out to Greenacres to discuss their child, future employment, or even small businesses, Greenacres details will be included in the show notes and even on social media, because I feel like many of the listeners will be very interested in that. So thank you, Karen. Now, here's a personal story. I received an Imagine candle when my father-in-law, God rest his soul, passed away last year. Little did I know the story behind Imagine candles. Recently, a friend name dropped Imagine again for me to contact them. And then as I was investigating, it dawned on me that Imagine was the candle that I received, but they have a store, or their store is located in Shell Harbour, where my father-in-law lived. And I just thought that was my father-in-law telling me, get Imagine on the podcast, share their story, because it's incredibly powerful. Karen, can you please share how Imagine homewares and hampers came to life, and how it's creating meaningful roles and skill building and opportunities for many individuals?
Look, so this started a couple of years back. It's around 3 years old now, and our wonderful sort of team of staff there came up with the concept of starting a social enterprise where our employees with disability can be essentially the makers, and then the curators, and then the faces behind the product, make it, sell it, and help distribute it. And that Imagine Homewares product was created with that whole concept that the whole production and manufacturing of that can actually create a whole range of opportunities for skills development and work across the full operation. And so effectively it was born. And all of our products are now manufactured in North Wollongong. And the great thing about the Imagine Homewares and Hampers product is that it is designed so that so many elements of that production can be broken down into aspects. So, people of all different sort of levels of ability can actually be part of it. And so your candle that you've received, it's very likely that one single candle has potentially passed through the hands of 5 different sets of people before it reaches you, because of it might be somebody involved in pouring the wax and then blending the scents. It could be involved in quality checking of the item. Then with the packaging, the beautiful, boxes that we have to put together, the stickers, the fulfillment of that.
Beautiful.
And then all the way through to, I guess, storytelling about the product. So we have our employees that are part of actually selling it. So they might be going along to expos to sell the product, or talking to a wholesaler, or at the retail store at Shell Harbour there. And just recently we had a crew go down to Parliament House because our products are sold.
Yes, I saw that.
Via there, but going and meeting. And so there's a lot of touch points for everybody in that process in terms of skill building and the opportunity to match them in terms of all of the aspects of manufacturing. And that's effectively how it all came to life.
I love that. And I'm sure many families love to buy gifts with meaning. And the fact we are the candle passed through the hand of 5 individuals with additional needs to create this gorgeous product has so much more essence than buying one from the local Kmart or the florist. Like, I feel you don't want to light it because it's so delicate, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a beautiful message to show it's not just a candle, it's a story that discusses empowerment, belief, and advocacy too. And anyone listening, I'll put Imagine's link in the show notes. And for Mother's Day, Christmas, or any special person, it's definitely a gift worth giving. Karen, similarly to Carol, what's one message you want families to take away about inclusion, employment, and opportunities like Greenacre, like that Greenacre provides?
Look, I think it's just looking at, I guess, for an organisation, it's about, what can genuine inclusion really bring? And so we all have different needs to be the best we can be. So how do we actually look at varying what we're doing to sort of meet the abilities and the ambition and the talents and the creativity alongside every individual, because everyone is the same. We all want to feel that we're contributing and we're valued. And I think essentially, employment for people with disability, while it's not where it should be, it's, if we come at it like that for businesses' perspective, we can go a long way. But I think specifically, my number one thing, I laughed when you were talking, Carol, because my personal opinion is that we need to raise our expectations, and we really need to be prepared to support people where it's needed. So, let's move generally about, be raising the expectations in the context of not in a way that creates pressure, but actually creates possibility.
Yes.
And so it's about making sure that that person in front of you actually has knowing that they have something to offer, and then trying to create the conditions for them to be able to demonstrate that to you, and then step back and let them do what they do and achieve to their full potential. We see it every day. And I think it's the number one thing that sometimes we get wrong in trying to, do the right thing and not put a foot wrong, but really the same way as everybody else, we all deserve to have that same respect and expectation to be the best we can be. And that's what really makes people fly.
Absolutely. Ladies, I have loved today's discussion. It really takes a different turn because a lot of my discussions are around pediatrics and transitioning to school and the parents' concerns, but it's so refreshing to hear there is hope. There is success stories. There are opportunities that are quite endless that our children or young adults can take on board. And they can catch the train or public transport independently with the right support. Now, I'm sure that's a big concern for many families as they want to helicopter their children in many ways, which is understandable. But tonight's story really showed that these are young individuals that deserve autonomy, that deserve the respect to be treated like everyone else, because, like what Carol's daughter says, they can do hard things. That's what a beautiful message to leave today's episode. I love that. Not a CrossFitter here for Rita, but I can do hard things in my Freedom Fitness gym. Ladies, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast tonight. Now, before we wrap up, I ask all my guests, I'll start off with you, Carol. If you were to be a better version of yourself tomorrow, what word will you apply to yourself today?
That's a hard question.
It is, and I never told you that.
You didn't give me better version of myself. Listen.
That's the first time someone's ever said that. I love that.
So listen. It's because I'm a good talker. I need to stop and listen. My word for this year, though, was stay curious, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why listening is important, to staying curious.
I love that. Beautiful words. And you, Karen?
Mine is my word of the year, which is optimism.
Beautiful.
And just putting that frame around things. I think it's a time where we need it, and it's too easy to sort of get down in the negative about some things that are going on, and that really sort of puts a light on everything in a positive sense. So,
yeah. What a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation. Now, anyone listening, Greenacres details are included in the show notes. Please go visit Imagine if you're in the Shellharbour Square area, but you can easily buy them online too. I can't wait to buy them for Mother's Day for many families, because there's such a beautiful message and meaning behind this gift, which I'm sure all of us will be so grateful to share with so many of our family and friends. For everyone else, another episode of Wine with Rita will be brought to your ears really soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Rita. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.